Hello everybody, and of course welcome back this digital tabletop fest, and today we are looking at Fantasy General 2, and today I am brought to you by the power of the internet, Jan, all the way from Germany, but also myself, Mr. Richard Yorke, and today, like I said, we're playing Fantasy Generals 2. Do you want to say hello, Jan?
Hello everybody, and maybe a short introduction. The reason I've got the honor of being on that stream here is that I actually am one of the people that worked on Fantasy Generals, so we'll have a lot to talk about because I'll get all the flack for all the stuff we did wrong from Richard, probably.
Probably, yes. So, Jan, you want to tell us a little bit of details about Fantasy Generals 2?
Yeah, Fantasy General, as the name implies, 2 is a successor to a game that's been 20 years old, so it's kind of a weird successor, slight pause in between. And we've been trying to sort of harken back to the days when a lot of the turn-based strategy games were quite popular, and using that, taking sort of the best of what Fantasy General had to offer, trying to add a little bit of our own and then move that into a more modern age in terms of accessibility and interface and feature depth and stuff like that. And we've been, I'm happy to say, relatively successful. At least that's what our players tell us. So we've been getting consistently good Steam reviews and rating sort of 85, 83%. And yeah, so we've been encouraged to do more of that. First DLC Onslaught's already out, and when this is airing, we are very close, if not already released, with the second DLC, which is called Empire Aflame, and features a full campaign from the side of the Empire, which is kind of the enemy in the first campaign that you're playing. So, you know, see things from a different perspective, maybe.
Oh, definitely. I'm absolutely looking forward. I've got to say, all the DLCs you brought out have been cracking. The Onslaught and, of course, the Prelude campaign that came out as a free introductory campaign was absolutely amazing, and I had a load of people raving about it for lots of times towards us. So, of course, the initial release date of Fantasy General 2 was back in 5th of September 2019, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, we've been out for a little over a year now, yes.
And I would definitely agree of the success of Fantasy General, because as a content creator myself, I have lots of people talking about it, joining the tournaments and always asking for other games. So I think we're going to jump into a game, if you're all right with that, Jan, and you can instruct me how to be the best I can at Fantasy Generals 2.
We've got so much done already, so I think I'll just let you play a little, and then I'll tell you afterwards.
Oh, I've got to say, I love the Bulbarians and the kind of natives and the mercenary king characters of Fantasy General, and I've got to say, bringing in the Imperial characters has bring another dimension to the game, actually, like you said, playing the bad guys of Fantasy General, because it just brings another, like I said, another dimension with the different upkeep and the abilities available for the units, because I feel the Imperial are definitely very much upgrading their own units as they go on, and like adding certain perks, which I found very interesting in the campaign, and I can't wait for the new DLC to hopefully expand on that more.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we try to do, and that's a little, I wouldn't say different from what other games do, but we're trying to sort of emphasize that, is that when you have a certain faction, it shouldn't just be something that you easily replace. Like, okay, these are the dwarves, these are the elves, and these guys got bows and these guys got hammers, and that's it. They shouldn't just be different feature wise or in terms of the abilities, but they should actually lead to a different kind of gameplay philosophy. So if you look at the barbarians, they've got key faction abilities that allow you to raid other other people, and they always need to be active. They need to be quite aggressive. They need to destroy as they go along in order to get the most out of the environment, and then capturing resources. And they also sort of heavily rely on or strongly rely on a certain kind of magic. Now the Imperials play differently, and not just because they've got different units. So it's not just, okay, this is an archer, which is essentially the same as a slinger on the barbarian side, but they have different kind of tactics and strategies that go along with that. And as a faction, they are stable. So they get income from settlements, which is quite important. So they don't need to destroy stuff. They need to hold their settlements. Barbarians, you sort of rush through the map. Empire, you need to always take care of being able to defend your holdings and make the most out of it. You get stronger over time, whereas barbarians are like have a strong initial push. The empire sort of slowly builds up, and that leads to a very different approach to a lot of the ways you play the map, and that kind of chimes in with the perspective of the empire. They buy their units for a lot of gold. They don't need a lot of the resources that barbarians need to collect all along. So it's by the very sort of way that we built up the faction, you kind of get a different feel, and already you're looking at things differently, because now when you see a barbarian that's about to destroy your beautiful city that you are taxing heavily in order to get all the money from it, you really get angry, and you really feel like these are invaders. They are destroying my stuff, which before you always like, treasure, excellent, let's go and raid. So we're trying to give you both an actual put the player in the position of the faction and of the way the faction thinks, and then sort of the play follows from that.
So definitely, I agree. I do remember the conscript ability you can get to raise units from the city as well, as you mentioned about gold. So we're going to click this the hero, of course, and we're just going to go for the. I'm going to be a little bit wussy and go for normal today. I don't feel getting punished.
That's fine.
A bit worse. So yeah, one thing I like about Fantasy General 2 is, of course, the key of keeping your units alive, and I like this in a game where keeping your unit alive and upgrading it over the time is a good thing, because sometimes a lot of strategy games units are replaceable, but in Fantasy General 2 you want to keep your unit alive, you want to upgrade it and it become a better unit rather than wasting them, because I find sometimes that I've lost a couple of key units early in the game and it's been detrimental to my further advancements across the map.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's a bit of a danger because it can allow you to snowball. So that's one of the things that we were looking at when we first released it, and you're one of the guys that actually had to suffer through that. We've since sort of tried to make the initial curve a little easier, because it is true, of course, all the units get experience, all the units get better over time, and you want to upgrade them, and that means when you upgrade a unit, you invested resources, you invested money in it, and if it dies, then you've not only lost that particular unit at that point, but you've also lost a lot of resources and money. And since you can name the units, and some of them start to, at least that's what it is with me. Like I've got some of the units that are my actual favorites, because I remember them being critical at a certain point, or doing specific stuff. And we've got the hero units, which are like special units anyway, but some of the normal units tend to grow on you as well over time. So I find myself in the same position where I go like, I really don't want to lose that guy.
What's your favorite unit in Fantasy General 2?
That is really hard to say. It's almost, well, currently it's the Death Dealer.
Yes, I've seen them. I like to shoot them down.
Exactly, they can be devastating. If they're played by the AI, they're already dangerous. But if as a player you queue them up right, they are brutal. And I'll let you, because we are streaming that at the point when we'll soon see the DLC. The new DLC, you'll actually be able to have those Death Dealers, because there's going to be enemies that are almost immune to most weapons. And so you'll find yourself in a position where having like a heavy unit that can charge in the ranks and deal damage, and also sustain itself by taking hit points from other units and healing itself. That can be really, really good in the front row. So you'll find them quite useful.
Definitely looking forward to that. By far, the Eagle Bomber is my favourite unit.
Yeah, he's really nice too, and he's one of those. It's really nice. One of the things that I find myself as a player as well is like, as a designer, we Eagle Bomber, that's such a great idea, and then I get the AI and it just bombs me to pieces with it, and I was like, I hate these guys.
There's something to look out for. It makes you think twice about what you do before rushing into a unexplored part of the map. Sometimes you can rush a little bit too quickly, and then you get ambushed by several ranged units. I think here we're going to land in the south, and then we're going to have some fun with some lizard folk.
Yeah, that's what we're playing now is Onslaught. So that's a different, like we've got two kinds of modes. Maybe that needs explaining. We've got the campaign mode, which is a full story campaign with a lot of important decisions by the player. There's a lot of dialogue that's relevant and that also changes the way the campaign unfolds. And then, but it tends to have larger maps, and you build your army up to like 20 or 30. In Onslaught, you've got a smaller force. It's these maps are not randomly but procedurally generated, meaning they are a little different every time you play them, but they're not random, so you can kind of know what to expect. And they're shorter, and they usually like feature a specific goal. Like in this case, it's just get to the other end of the map.
And your hero must survive as well. Don't forget that one.
Yes, that's always going to be the case. Hero needs to survive.
Yeah, I've got to say, what did I do the other day when I was playing this? I can't remember now. It was, I had all my archers at the top end of their end. Oh, wait a second. There we go. I had them all upgraded to armoured archers and longbowmen. I've got to say, what was the decision to give the longbowmen the extra point of range and keeping? I think these at 2 as well, and keeping the armoured archers at 2 range and having the longbowmen at 3. Is it because they're just generically a better unit, or just meant for kind of shooting at longer range?
Well, it's a different kind of thing, right? The longbowmen don't have defensive fire, so
that's true.
They are quite weak to a counter attack. You can put them in the 3rd row of your army if you want that. So then they should be quite okay. However, they are if anybody flies over the first 2 ranks, or if you've got artillery, they are easily taken apart. So they just have a different role. We see them more as like snipers. So they're individually they're weak. They can be devastating if you give them the space, and they can ambush other people. So they're good as sort of a surprise unit.
Ooh.
Whereas, you've already got an enemy.
I think we're going to push up our defense fire. I do like the defensive fire attribute. It's a wonderful thing. It can be awfully devastating for an enemy player.
Yeah, it's kind of things. That's one of the things that the Empire does well, because they've got these sort of early, relatively well armored units, whereas barbarians usually have kind of aggressive light units, and these early units tend to be able to play sort of the first row and take a beating, and let your second row archers in, and then take the enemy apart while he's running at your spears.
Oh, definitely. I've got to say, I'm looking forward to seeing more Imperial characters and seeing some Transmuters, because I know Transmuters I have awfully bad memories of Transmuters. We're just raising legions of undead towards you, and I've had a couple of failures because of it. And I'm looking forward to actually getting my hands to actually play them in a main campaign, and seeing how their level trait goes up and what you can add to them as well.
Yep, they are quite fun. You'll see you'll be able to do your own hordes of undead thing to the enemy, which is going to it's really nice, and it feels, again, it's a different way of thinking about it, because we talked about just now volunteers, always good. We just now talked about how you would be sort of keeping your units and taking care of them, making sure that they survive and really get attached to them. Whereas if you're a Transmuter, you just summon undead. You don't care about them at all. You just throw them willy-nilly at anything that comes along. You use them as well, in this case, undead cannon fodder. You use them to lure out enemies. So you've got a whole different way of playing this, whilst sort of protecting your actual human units that survive the whole thing. And that, again, is changing the way you look at the gameplay.
Oh, definitely, yes. I've got to say, the only restriction probably there would be your mana uptake, of how much it's going to cost to raise one of them units per turn.
Yep, which is why, and that's in the, again, that's how it ties in. If you play the main story, it's all about the Empire invading the barbarian areas and sort of trying to suck out their mana sources, and thereby destroying the land and the environment.
Oh yeah, definitely. So we've got some volunteers there. So we're at a tricky point here, I think, with the lizard folk have definitely a fortified position. But I'm moving up very defensively, I like to think, with my spearmen. But I know the lizardmen get quite a lot of advantages in the water, which when you can get them as mercenaries, or you do pick them up in the main campaign, they are quite useful in that attack.
Yeah, but they're low on armor, and this is, you already got in a 3-faction war here. So Empire units and undead and you. and the lizards.
You see, what I like about these skirmishes is the hit and run ability. The retreat ability. Sorry, where they have a chance to run away once you attack them. I find that really beneficial and annoying at the same time, especially when playing the Barbarian faction and you've got the slingers. The javelin troops have it, and the stag riders, I think, and a couple of others. And it's a little bit of a glass cannon, but do you know what? I don't know. I'm tempted. Do you think a rush attack here might pay heed? I think it might do. I think, as I've just said, there's a free faction war here. I think advancing my spearmen, but not engaging the lizard skirmishers. A quick question, Jan. Who is your artist? Because I've got to say, the cards, the little icon cards, are beautiful in the game. Like the pictures of the characters and the units. I've got to say, it's really
like them as well. Yeah, it's Dominic Fiedler. He's a great Dominic Meyer. He's a great guy. We're quite happy to have him. He's as you can see, really talented, and I think it lends sort of a different level to things, because the 3D stuff, of course, is limited because we've got a lot of units on. The level of detail isn't that great, but we really try to make the character portraits stand out and feel a certain value, that because you do value the troops, so they should really look nice. They shouldn't just be exchangeable grey blobs.
Oh, definitely, you're right. So, what was the thought behind the region wealth per turn? Because I do like that mechanic, because it makes you keep pushing in the game rather than just taking a very, very long time to complete a map. Is that what it's there for? To make you have to advance quicker to get to raid and to pick up items in the map?
Well, yeah, there's two things. We wanted didn't want to do a hard cap. So some of the levels in Fantasy General or in other games that you see have a hard cap where, okay, you've got 10 turns to do this and then the game is over. Which is okay because it creates pressure on the player, and pressure is always sort of creating interesting situations. But it also means that you're kind of locked into a specific playing style, and we didn't want that. So what we're doing essentially is we're telling you, well, if you want to make the most of it, you'll probably take more risks, you'll play faster, but you'll also be in danger of losing more units or getting into situations that you can't control as well. So we give you the opportunity to play faster, and we'll reward you for it, because more risk, more reward. If you want to play slow, however, that's fine as well, because at the end of that wealth bar, nothing happens other than you're not going to get additional stuff. So if you explore the map, as we saw now in the camp where you just found a barbarian unit, that won't happen anymore after the wealth runs out. So all the resources that are sort of hidden on the map are gone. But you've probably played slower. You got less injuries, and thus taking less risk, but then accepting a lesser reward.
Definitely. Oh, liquid mana, we looked out there. Sometimes I've been really lucky with the looting the region, and sometimes you just get stuff you don't really want. There's some really nice magic items out there. Definitely, I've seen some crackers. I have.
Yeah, we've changed that a little since release, because initially it was quite random, and now we've made it so that depending on what you're going into. So this is a burial mound. It's got a higher chance of getting liquid mana, for example, than something else. So it's kind of flavored with regards to what you're likely to find.
I feel I'm getting very lucky here. Whoever's you guys are watching on the stream, we're getting very lucky. We've dislodged the skirmishers. As you can see, this skirmish unit has become disordered now, so it's fighting a little less effectively on that right side. That tactic of I like to think, I don't know if it's an imperial tactic, but that whole move of spearmen. So as you could see, attacking this little town, I was moving up my spearmen in one rank and had the archers, but also to shoot, but also defense fire at the same time. So if the lizardmen did want to attack me, but as you can see, some of the lizard warriors have fallen back into the river, into the swampland where they come from. And to be honest with you, it is devastating to actually try and dislodge them from that position, because they are amphibious and water fighters, giving them extra damage and scariness in that little river or swamp. Sorry. So we're trying. I think that lizard warrior may get away without me, unless he comes closer to the end, where we could probably shoot him with the archers. But I think we've done pretty well so far. Just what we've been doing.
Yeah, I think it's clever. You mean they sort of the initial brunt of the attack was taken by the other faction, so that's always the best if you're able to do that. But the lizards are aggressive guys, so yeah, he's definitely gonna come back.
And I think we're going to fill him full of arrows, even though it's going to do. It's quite heavily armored. If I had a mage or anything that can degenerate armor, I would be casting that to knock his armor off. I think fire spiders have the like.
Fire spiders can destroy the armor, but for him it's not actually only the armor. Armor is only one factor. He's got a shield, and shield means he's got 50% defense against missile.
That is handy.
So whenever you see a shield on a unit, that's one of the principles that we're having. Even if you don't understand all the little things that go on the left that tell you exactly what abilities these guys have and why a certain combat result's happening, at least the graphics tell you, okay, if he's got a shield and he's usually lifting it up when you shoot him, it'll just tell you, okay, it's probably harder to hit this guy than somebody without a shield.
But at the same time, it's still worth trying to hit him. I'm not losing anything by trying to shoot the Lizardmen.
No, it's just less effective. If you get 2 targets, you probably want to look at how you approach that. But it's of course still doing damage.
But also, I'll just show everybody the inventory. So as you progress through the main campaign or the Onslaught, or I'm assuming the new ones, you pick up magical items that can affect different characters and units. And I find this absolutely fascinating because you can find some amazing items that could really buff a unit up. I think I've got. I'm trying to think of an item that I've got before, off the top of my head. If we find any, we can talk about that. But what gave you that idea for the inventory? Was that brought from the original Fantasy Generals?
It's part of the original Fantasy General. In original Fantasy General, everybody had kind of the same weapons, but you could have certain items that would then enhance your troops. However, they were. I mean, there's other games do that as well, kind of, where you equip and improve your troops by giving them items. So what we try to do is not do items that just give you like +5 attack or +3 armor. There are some of them that do that, but most of the ones we're trying to create are things that open new tactical possibilities. So if you, let's say, you give a unit that like this one that's sort of a heavy slow unit, and you make them a forest fighter, all of a sudden you can move through forest quite easily, and that changes the way you can actually use the unit. So it's not only improving them, but it's also giving you different options of using them or adding to them, making them more heavy, giving an armored unit another heavy armor, so it becomes a real colossus, that just sort of breaks through the ranks without getting hurt. So both of these things change the kind of flavor the unit has for you.
I think water boots were one of them. I can't remember. There was water boots.
Water boots are hugely useful when you go into the swamp or have to fight these.
You see, these Lizardmen have become slightly more annoying because I didn't kill them, so they've healed themselves back up, and now they're going to take this. As we were talking about at the start of the stream about the different factions of Fantasy General. Having different abilities, and of course my castle generates me 10 gold income per turn, which will affect my whole campaign really. So him capturing this back, I can literally get 60 gold wealth for the end of that. That's right, isn't it, Jan?
Yeah, absolutely, that's true. And that's one of the things where I said where it's like with the Barbarian, you just sort of moved up and moved on. Like, okay, raided this, just go on to the map. Now with the Empire, you really start to think about, well, do I want to leave a unit there to protect that? But if I leave one unit, it's probably going to be a little weak. So what do we do? Do we do another unit? It's different things that you need to think about.
Yeah, I did think about leaving one arch unit there, but I don't know if toe-to-toe, even with a defense fortification damage reduction, it could actually take on the swamp Lizardmen there.
Yeah, problem with the Lizardmen is that they've got magical weapons, so they really don't care that much about your armor and fortification stuff.
So I think, unfortunately, as we're going to have to abandon that castle. Even though that's gold, we did get a liquid mana from the mound, so I'm still slightly happy with that, because that will probably help us out slightly more late game with some of the unit upgrades.
There's always another city or settlement around the corner, maybe, so...
Okay, so I think we're clear. We did find another cave, and we've got 6 turns left. I think we could easily get that, but I don't want to rush in too far. I've done it loads of times where I've rushed in, or there's the natural inhabitants, or there's a bear hiding in the woods somewhere, or famished wolves ready to jump out.
That's one of the first things we teach the player actually in the campaign is like on the very first map you'll get a couple of wolves that attack you from ambush. So you realize that, okay, woods are a place to hide in, and the enemy knows that as well. And it's actually, ambush is quite a dangerous thing because it doubles the damage the ambusher does to you.
Yeah, because every single piece of every terrain piece has different attributes that gives you. So as we can see here, we've got a forest, which gives you missile damage reduction and breaks charge, and units can hide. A unit that is hidden does have a blue eye icon above it, and I think if it's spotted, it has a red icon, if I remember rightly.
Absolutely, yeah.
And of course, we have rough terrain, which I do like when you're playing the barbarians, and you have the slingers, and the slingers gain infinite ammo, infinite defense ammo, defense action from being inside there. That's right, isn't it? Because I remember that quite a lot.
Because the assumption is they're picking up the stones essentially where they stand, so they can do infinite defense charges.
It's all them little details. I love that when I put a unit there. So we're just going to advance forward. I think we definitely need to get this cave. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, you can also get bad things coming from caves. It's not all. I think I've got a bear once or twice. I don't know if there's a percent. Oh, nope. We looked in there by getting a weapon. So as you can see, we've got one weapon which can be used to upgrade our units. As we were talking about at the start of this video, we can upgrade our units into certain trees. So, you know, if we want them to be more ranged, we could go towards slingers or axemen, and then all the way up to werebears, or even a Thane character, which is definitely a good piece. But I've got to say, out of this whole tech tree, I like the slingers, and I go to the thunderers or the armored slingers because I just love their kind of their very Norse kind of background to them, and how I do like. This is probably by far my favourite picture with the thunderer with the lightning behind, and he does have magical damage as well, which is awesome. But of course, it has the prerequisites that we need to get to that point. We need the gold, we need the weapons, but also the mana. But we have to remember, go up this tree, which I really like that concept of you keeping that, like we said before, keeping them units alive. You benefit in the longer run in the campaign or whatever game you're playing. Okay, so we do have, unfortunately, a raided settlement here where we're not going to gain nothing from there, unfortunately. So we've still got time. I like to think we've got 5 turns left of wealth. We can, if we're lucky, find another piece of terrain to raid and actually benefit us in the whole campaign. So I'm saying I'm slightly confident here that there's no more enemies left, but there could be hidden units, but like Jan said, you've got to still be wary of your surroundings.
Yeah, I think you've got a good setup for this map here, relatively, because it depends on the way it's procedurally generated. You could have the fact that the Empire and the Lizards kind of faced off against each other, weakened both factions, and allowed you to kind of be the laughing third person there. Where if you had to face both of them individually, it would have been probably a bit harder for you. So yeah, you've got a lucky draw there.
It would have slowed us down on moving through the campaign. Okay, so I think we don't have to run off just yet. 4 turns, and of course our hero is on a horse, so he's going a lot quicker. So I don't know if we're going to be quick enough to explore anything to this left side, but we're going to push forward. But like I said, at a bad turn, you could still lose your hero, even if you're overconfident. I've got to say, I played a couple of games where I've been slightly overconfident with my character and nearly lost them a couple of times, and I have lost them plenty of times as well. So you've got to remember, they're good. They've got good buffs, and depending if you're playing the Barbarians or the Imperial, it's depending what skills they are going to have. I mean, like we said before, the Imperial is on about it's about longevity. It's about preserving your units, and as you can see from the tech tree, we've got like War Leader, we've got Drill. Also, the army stances we can put them into. Of course, the conscript ability we talked about with when we capture a city, we are able to raise a population, a mercenary force from that, which it's a great skill, that is, I've got to say. And then, of course, we get the quartermaster, which increases our supply limit, which is the unit, how many units we can have in the campaign at one time. But like I said, every unit does have their supply cost, which they're going. So I don't know if we're going to have time to actually run to this left side, because 4 turns left. I don't think there's very many enemies left, but like I said, each terrain type benefits, but also gives disadvantages to other units. As we can see, the Lizardmen are adapted to the water, and particularly it's not very good for anybody else. That is at minus 25% damage. We can't charge, and the defend arm modifier is at minus 50%, so it's a negative there. So when you're thinking about moving, positioning your armies, you do not want to be in this river. You want to be at a point where they're ending their turn in the river and you're able to strike down onto them. Would you agree with that, Jan?
Absolutely, no. That's one of the viable tactics. Obviously, sort of building your defense line, and depending on the setting of the AI, it'll fall for that. And actually, the more aggressive AIs just sort of run over stupidly into you. But the clever AI stays on the other side of the river as well, and just knows that you're in the same position as the AI is, and you have to get there.
Oh, as I said before, if you get a little bit brave and you don't really scout properly, you could fall into a trap like this. So we're not. I don't think I'm particularly scared, but unfortunately, our ranged units are quite a long way away. So if we hopefully try and pull these closer a little bit, because I think unfortunately our main character is going to get, I don't know if they're going to attack me or not. I've got a high probability of surviving this, but at the same time I don't want to push my luck because we could fail. This would be all embarrassing for me. Oh, I think we need to retreat back. Oh, we've got some are they bats?
Yep,
vampire bats. All right, and I think we are going to retreat back. We will hurt them when they charge us because of defense fire, but at the same time, I'm going to chuck all my units in front of my officer.
Yeah, you're lucky. I mean, Philos is one of, because you see he's got heavily armored, so he's not as good on offensive as the average barbarian leader, but he's much better on defense. So he'll take a beating. But he doesn't dish out too much damage as well.
No, I'd like to think he's a support leader. He's good in combat, and he's good supported by other units. But also he's good at supporting other units at the same time. And I think we have the rally ability here to recover a small amount. So if we are getting attacked and they are disordering our units, we are able to hit that button and actually raise a little bit of morale around each other, because your units can get disordered and they can rout. I've had lots of times where I've had Harpies, bears do their shout ability and reduce the morale and break a portion of the army. And a vital time in the game, if your morale is that low and they've broken a proportion of their army, it's very much they will just hammer you. And I think you get a increased damage. They increase damage against you, don't they, when you've got a less morale?
Yeah. At a certain point, well, you first of all, as morale decreases, your damage and defense decreases, and then at a certain point, the enemy actually will get an advantage of attacking you because you're just sort of running scared.
So the volunteers and the spearmen taking the brunt of that attack, and the little vampire bats are coming to peck me. Okay, so you know what? I don't want to lose these either because they're a free unit, and I think, are we in range? Yes, I think we're going to hit the vampire bats first. I'm going to pull him back. I'm going to pull the spearman here. I'm going to see. You see, that was a bad move just there. I just double clicked.
Oh, you went into the very river that you explained why you wouldn't want to be there.
Exactly. This is pure. I'm sure I won't die, but we'll hope that doesn't happen. There's no point popping. I think we've got enough defense fire here. And like we said before, longevity. Keep units alive. As you saw, that yellow flash of light, which pushed around a couple of our units. I think did we get a level there with one of these units?
That's a level up for several of your units, actually.
Yeah.
So you always get, you don't, not only the unit that does the actual killing gets experience, but there's an area around it. In the same way that morale sort of spreads around. So if you see one of your units dying, everybody else around from your army will get a decreased morale as well. And the same goes with experience. One person does that, everybody else profits from it to a degree. So we don't have one of the problems in the Fantasy Journal itself was that there was very uneven development because you had sort of high damage units that would always kill the enemy over long range. They would get experience, but the guys in front taking the brunt of the enemy damage, for example, wouldn't. And that's one of the things we didn't want. We want the sort of if you keep your army together, it'll sort of advance at a similar pace.
Definitely. As you can see there, I've just highlighted the indicator of the levels and telling you each level increases the unit's health by 10% and damage by 5%. So like we Janda said, keeping them units alive, keeping them together, keeping them kills together, and everybody benefits in your army. So if you're sending single units out to kill single units, you're not really benefiting your whole army at one time. But also, like we said before, your general is, of course, getting... I think we didn't get a level there, did we? Of course, like I said, with the levels, he gets skill points in that respect, and he can go off his own little train. And it's always interesting to try and cater to a different character each time you play, and seeing how would it affect the game if you go for bigger pockets, or if you went for more health, or if you went for a more... a character that just went for, you know, increasing your supply and the people around them. So it's interesting the way you can change it. And one thing I do like, it's of course replayability. If you in the, as we spoke about the main campaigns, your decisions in each mission will affect the next point of the missions as the campaign goes along. So if you make a bad decision, this could affect massive amount of decreased in morale and other things in the game, which I really like. I made some really bad decisions in a couple of the campaigns where I got Kinslayer and everybody in my army hated me. And if you go against the woodland creatures in the other invasion campaign, they don't like you. You have to kill all the trolls and all the rest of it, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's very story driven, and I think people, like I said, people do like that. But like I said, replayability is definitely at forefront of my mind, and just trying to get them different things happening at different times and seeing what combinations you can get. I'm sure I'm going to survive this. Now I think I'm not.
You'll make it.
Oh, the wolves have had enough, but the birds haven't. Oh, will the volunteers survive? And they just survive!
Oh, that's the close call. 2 of 250.
Okay, I think we can kill the
Yeah,
pigeon.
you'll get the eagles with your archers.
Ooh, no, if he can move, I'll move him there, and then... Okay. That was close, though.
That was close indeed. See, that's one of the things. You don't realize it because you kind of get a sort of an innate sense of how defensible or how stable a unit is. Now, you've been playing the spearmen, and they can, because they've got armor already, they can take a good bit of damage and deduct that. These guys, the barbarians, are glass cannons essentially. They're quite aggressive, but they have no armor, and if you use them in the same way you use your spear infantry, the AI will usually pick the softer target, so they'll bear the brunt of the attack, and then you realize that, okay, if it's different from playing a barbarian army, and you need to get used to the differences of the units there.
As you can see on the bottom left, we've got the little panel where we've got about our armor, and as you can see, they have 0 armor, meaning they only get a slight magical reduction. And if I were to click the spearman unit, you can see they can take a bit more punishment. Like I said, the barbarians are running around just about naked, and the spearmen are a lot more everyone. So as you can see, we did get a level, like we spoke just before about keeping our units together, keeping that XP going, everybody supporting, and like we said, we have choices now. You see, I've always got split decisions. You see, Jan, I've got to say, I've never clicked bigger pockets before. I don't know if that's a bad thing or good thing.
No, it's the normal thing to do. I can tell you, I'm doing the same thing. I've almost never used it until one of our kind of expert players showed us what you can do if you just pile 2 or 3 items on top of each other on one of those hero characters, and that can be massively useful.
Do you have an example, like, of what items he was given?
Well, we can, for example, you can give him an armor, sort of the heaviest plate in the game gives you +4 armor, I think, making you
that's beastly.
Quite, but it also decreases your speed by 1, so you can only move 2 or 3 hexes. But then if you've got 2 on the pocket thing, you can give him an item that makes him faster again, so you counter the problems of the armor gives you. And then, for example, you can give them resistance to physical damage, or you can give resistance to magical damage, and that, for example, will then make them invincible physically, hard to attack magically, and if it's a good combat unit you're putting it on, it can be quite strong. Another example is Pilfer, which is an item that allows you to get the Pilfer skill, and that will give you 20 gold every time you kill a unit.
Ooh, that's handy. That's handy, yeah. That is.
Yeah, and if you give them an extra charge or give them extra deadly damage, they are more likely to kill something. So you can make him into a killing cash machine. So there's all kinds of combinations that are really interesting.
You see, I've got to say, as an RTS player and my play style, I like passive abilities. I like abilities that I know are always working in the background to support my army in different ways. So that's given me like a little bit of a different take on that with bigger pockets. I think I'm going to definitely try that when that new DLC comes out. And what's the name of the new DLC again?
It's called Empire Aflame, because the Empire, after you've been through it, is essentially plays after invasion. So once you've played your own, you've done your own thing to the Empire, without spoiling the story, you're definitely doing a number on the Emperor. And then we pick up where the barbarians kind of left the area again, went home rich in spoils, and left a burning empire. And now there's a couple of contenders for the now empty throne. You're kind of thrust into the middle of that, but there's of course something more sinister going on as well.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Oh, so here we are again. We thought we got away home clean here. We did.
That's just bad luck for those barbarians.
But that is the way Fantasy General 2 can shock you a little bit. For a second, you can get overconfident and just lose units at a drop of a hat. And like we're saying about armour, if I would have... I should have ran them away a bit more. But you know what? That's just... that's quite funny. But you know what? We're going to run to the edge because we know all we have to do is reach to the south. And there we go. I was hit and miss there a little bit, but I really enjoyed that. And actually, yeah, really well. Surprising that attack freeway combo we had, like we said, like made that this quite a unique setup, that if we had to fight them two other factions singular, it would have been completely different. We would have probably a longer game there. So we're just going to replenish some units for 2 gold. I can do that. So yeah, we'll just see how long we can get into the next mission. So what I like, of course, as well, again on Fantasy General 2, is the reward. You see, we're talking about water boots. That's mighty tempting, Jan.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you don't get. So as we're talking about different combination of items and how they can affect different things, I love this item, I've got to say, because this is why I remember it so more than any other item. So this is no movement cost increase for moving through shallow waters, rivers, swamp, or water. Can charge shallow. So what would you think the best unit would be to give to this? We're going to go for it, of course.
Yeah, we'll have to go through. I think currently you're not, because you don't have a charger. It doesn't really matter.
No.
I would probably give it. I'd probably give it to your hero so it can be more mobile.
I was going to say that, yeah. Oh, one thing I did not never notice this before. We can transmute it. I've not seen that. I'll be honest with you, I've not seen it before.
That's because it just got patched in recently.
Yes, that's new to me. So we're able to, I guess, melt that item down into other items to benefit our army in other ways.
What you essentially can do is you can, I mean, currently you don't have too many items. You probably don't want to do that. But there's a point when you've got maybe more items or items you're not really using, and you can transfer them into resources or even liquid mana, depending on which is not a resource, but a rare one.
Liquid mana is like gold dust, because I just crave it every time I complete a mission or I'm looting anywhere. I've got to say kudos again to your art designer. The beautiful picture of that transmuter in the right side of the here is very, very nice. Yeah. Okay,
that's actually one of the perks of being the Empire, that you get a transmuter from the beginning. The barbarians don't have that.
Okay, so we're going to equip the item. There we go. Okay, so we've got 3 choices, and like we said a couple of minutes ago, you can choose the way you want to approach the map, and also some objectives of course shut off other objectives, but there is a some sort of path you can go. You see, the mountain path sounds good, but also each different way will give you different rewards. So we get artifacts here. Defending the city will yield gold, and the competitor of course will gain us some more liquid mana. It's depending on what army you need. As you can see, we've got 1 weapon, we've got 52 gold and 1 liquid mana. As we showed, if we click one of the units here, is this right? Just please know if I'd say it's right. So weapons are more for offensive troops, and armor and armor is for more defensive troops. Yeah,
in general that's the case. I mean, there's some combinations of them, like the knights, that need both, but in general you'll have the lighter troops get more kind of weapony, and then you get the armor for the sort of heavier troops that you're building. And then like magical troops, like you can get an adept, an acolyte I think it's called, which is a magical unit that can actually summon undead already. which is kind of it needs just needs gold, and that allows you to kind of start your own little skeleton army.
I'm looking forward to Transmuters. I will let you know I am, because I would love to play that multiplayer and just start raising undead all day. So we're going to go for the mountain path. We've got probably about 10 minutes left on this stream, guys. So we're going to see what shenanigans and hordes and harpies and all sorts of monsters. Harpies are brutal creatures, I've got to say, Jan. Who designed them? Because they are evil.
We actually came up with them, and we made them. We thought they were too strong initially, and we needed to work on them quite a bit so they don't disrupt your whole campaign by just taking over your troops. But I'm quite happy that we're trying to find units that are dangerous on their own, where you go like, okay, if I see this on the battlefield, I'm going into high alert. And Harpy is just one such a unit. You need specific strategies to counter it.
It's ignore them and shoot them down. That's my tactic.
Yeah, run away. Well, they only can affect human males, right?
Yes, I questioned this on a video, a stream when I did. It's like, who gave that thought? Was that kind of like a mythical kind of?
Yeah, we interviewed all the Harpies we knew, and they all told us the same thing. They're not interested in charming females. They only want charm males because they're much easier to bend their minds.
Yes, weak-willed men apparently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's a brave computer player.
Well, they're looking at you. That's one of the things. The AI, because the Empire has the automatic fortification. Maybe you noticed that when you finish a move, it automatically fortifies, which will make an attack quite costly. So depending on the setting of the AI, they are going like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. Whereas some of the other AI have a more aggressive setting, and they go like, I don't care. There's a burning camp there.
Yeah, I know. I like that. I just want to do, like you said before, I want to slowly push my army, because I feel like that Spearman Wall, like we showed with the armor and the fortification attribute they have, they just have that like shield wall, and all my archers pushing behind have that nice combination. Unless they get some artillery somehow, then or I find some troll hurlers, then I'm in trouble.
Yeah. One of the things that you also can tell by looking at the map that we had previously is there's these little shield symbols, and that'll tell you what the main enemy in the map is. So what you've just seen now is you're attacking the brigands because they've got this specific banner. And if you know them after a while, you realize, okay, that means certain army composition. Brigands, for example, are mostly barbarian, but they're more of a mix, so they also have a lot of eagles and trolls and other in their midst. And that can also be interesting or important to make a decision based on, well, what enemies do I want to fight? Because for example, I don't like Harpies, so maybe I'll try with something that's unlikely to have one. Oh, okay.
Oh, so they have damaged armor, so that's interesting. There could be some fire spiders maybe hidden somewhere in the map that we've not seen.
Somebody did that to them. Yeah. So the AI does fight against each other, and apparently there's an enemy close by that can do that.
Okay, I think we are going to shoot the younglings to death. I don't want to take any damage here, so I think we could probably be brave enough. Oh, like I said, fire spiders, and of course, by far another favourite unit of mine, the Stag Riders unit. Sorry, because they have the hit and run. The hit and run is it the hit and run ability? Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's up there.
I can't find it now. Scout, retreat, ignores. Oh, it's there. Yeah, it's there. Yeah, it's the hit and run, which is brilliant because you can just run a unit that doesn't probably have any offensive missile power and just throw some spears, run exactly back to where you are. Okay, so here we go again. I think if what damage are we going to take? Very little damage there, so I think I'm going to have to do that.
And also, you'll be on defensive ground at that point, so you've got that defensive position as well.
Okay, we're going to chuck him behind the main line. I think we're safe. There's kind of like a battle royale yet again being fought here against some ancestral ghosts, some spiders. We've got some vampire bats and stag lancers. So let's see who they attack first. Oh! They don't like them ancestors, did they?
everybody's helping you doing your job for you, which is really nice. I find that quite a friendly setting in the AI that they're fighting your battles for you. Makes life so much easier.
Oh, and I will just get the kill there as well. Brilliant. That was quite good. So we got this shrine to the right. We'll try. But as you can see, we're not getting as much gold as we would from a city. I noticed that. We got 10 gold from a city, and from a settlement, it seems only 8 gold. Is that an intentional decrease because of the level of infrastructure in the city or a settlement?
Yeah, that's so. The castle. Well, the castle is the fortified thing, and it's harder usually, unless it's empty. It's harder to take because it's got better defenses, so you get better reward for it. And then these lesser settlements, yeah, they are less valuable. They yield less result.
Aha! So what did? Oh, we got a blessing of speed. So for this mission only, we're getting +1 speed, which is handy. Now my character is really, really quick. Okay. I don't think I'm going to finish these stag lances off. I think they're going to run away.
Yeah, it might be. They can't run far because there's a forest to the north, so
yeah.
they are kind of bottled in a little there.
Okay, let's see what they do. Oh, off they go. And we got some, like we spoke about the fire spiders before. Oh, that ability is brilliant. I've got to say, it's by far one of my favourite abilities, especially when you're coming across very heavily armoured units and you want to negate their armour. So I think we're going to send these spiders back to their little webs.
It's funny, I'm looking at this and I'm always, to this day, I'm looking at my own game and I've seen that like a couple of 100 hours by now. And still, if I watch somebody play it, I was like, oh, okay, what will happen next year? Will he get them? I'm really, it's just funny that I tend to really sort of feel the intensity.
So always remember the abilities of the units. I couldn't remember if they had the retreat ability or not. I don't think the spiders do.
No, they don't.
Okay, let's see if they retreat. Oh, we've got some bats. Picking on the archers on the left side again. But defense fire should really hurt them bats. The bats are good for scouting, but also if there's a unit in the back of the map that's got a tiny bit of health on and they can kill it, it's always handy to send them in. Because I think some of the Wolf Mother from the Barbarian faction can summon creatures, and that's handy for scouting. So like we said about scouting a couple minutes ago, it's always good to know where your enemy is. So we're fine there, and that is a Harpy tower. And some gold. Brilliant.
I don't think there's any reason why there would be a Harpy tower and any Harpies near to it.
I just hope there isn't, because they are vicious. They are vicious. So, I think we're coming up to the end of this stream. Jan, do you have any final thoughts to say about your game?
Well, I think I'm hoping that everybody else has some thoughts on the game that they'll tell us, so we can further improve them. But one of the things that I want to say is that we really appreciate the kind of amount of work that people already did, helping us on in the beta, and probably wouldn't have been where we are if we hadn't those kind of players that have really been helpful. And I want to sort of extend my thanks. So it's not always just the team that does things. In this case, it really is the player base that's been enormously helpful.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. So I just want to say thank you for Jan, but also check the game out on the Steam store or just Googling Fantasy General 2 and you should hope to find it. So have a great day, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully we've been talking to you within this stream as well. And bye-bye.